The name George HoSang resonates with horse racing in Jamaica. Recently, HoSang returned to Jamaica as an ambassador for the Jamaica Thoroughbred Horsemen's Foundation. This is a foundation whose goal is to assist horsemen, especially those in the backstretch. HoSang's early days at Caymanas Park, where he first donned his racing silks, laid the foundation for a narrative marked by relentless ambition and unparalleled skill. His innate connection with his mounts, combined with an unyielding dedication to his craft, saw him ascend to the zenith of the sport, securing the title of champion jockey on multiple occasions. The accolades amassed in his homeland, however, were but a prelude to the success that awaited across the shores. HoSang ventured to Canada, where he continued to weave his tale of excellence. On foreign tracks, his reputation as a masterful rider only grew stronger as he once again claimed champion jockey titles, delighting racing enthusiasts with his commanding performances. HoSang's narrative is not merely one of personal glory, but reflects a broader story of inspiration and influence. As he steps into his ambassadorial role, he carries with him not just the memories of victories past, but the aspirations of future generations, eager to follow in the galloping footsteps of a true icon of the sport. Quick Gallop, jhay.com, and its YouTube channel, The Quick Galloper, present part 1 of the lifetime narrative of George HoSang. It is a narrative which celebrates the spirit of determination and the relentless pursuit of greatness. It is a tale that transcends borders, a testament to the enduring allure of horse racing and a reminder of the indomitable will that defines champions. In part 1 of this narrative, HoSang deals with his early days as a rider up to when he left Jamaica for Canada.
George, first of all, thank you very much for allowing us to do this interview. It's a real pleasure to have you on the Quick Gallop YouTube channel.
Yes, Carl, it's my pleasure to do. Always work with you. My pleasure.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born on the east side of Palace Theatre, bottom of South Camp Road and East Queen Street.
Okay.
And incidentally, Bimbo will tell you he was on the other side of Palace Theatre on Cloverley Road that he was born.
Okay.
So my apprentice brother,
okay,
we came back from birth.
Okay. What primary school did you go to? What high school did you go to?
I went to a little school named Blake's Prep School. It's somewhere off of Elliston Road.
Mm-hmm.
I think my memory, just click Elliston Road. It was on Blake's Prep, and then I moved on to Kingston College.
Okay. All right.
Where they kicked me out eventually because I was reading too much racehorse.
How did you get into the whole business of horse racing?
Okay, Carl. My uncles, they own and race horses. I have two uncles that race horses. One name was Basil and one was Victor. And Victor is the one that owned Creation that won the Jamaica Derby back in the 70s. And my other uncle, he was famous for a horse called Ratted.
Mm-hmm.
And she won the Jamaica Oaks, not with me. And he was also instrumental. Basil was instrumental in getting me to ride for the hot trainer Ren Gonzalez back in the days, which we eventually won the Rika in the Jamaica Derby.
Yeah. Your early days, when did you first go down to Caymanas Park? What was the first stable that you started out with? What did you do at that stable? Did you mock stalls, that kind of thing? Yeah.
Exactly what you said. I used to mock stall with Fritz Crawford.
Okay.
Which is where I met Bimbo Rodriguez again.
Mm-hmm.
We started at Fritz Crawford. We all started doing the same thing. Sweep stable and mock stalls, groom horses, bathe them, and learn to saddle them before we got on top of them. So we learned from the ground up.
Do you remember the first time you actually went on a horse? And
Yes.
at what age?
Oh yes, I was 15 And this was a mare in foal, 6 months in foal, named Tomboy, owned by my uncle. And she was in a little paddock behind Fritz Crawford's stable. And he said, well, that's your right. You go and catch her. Fritz Crawford said to me, you go and catch her and you beat her off and saddle her and you can walk around the ring with her. 6 months pregnant, but you know, it couldn't hurt her at that stage.
Yeah.
So I wasn't being cruel to her. She was being cruel to me because she dropped me on my head a few times. But that's how the first horse I got on.
What was the feeling like? You were about 6 feet off the ground for the first time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was the feeling like for you as a young man?
Definitely not scared, because this is what I loved and I wanted to do. So I was happy, I was excited until she dropped me. Then I wasn't excited anymore.
Sure.
But I just brushed myself off and they just got back up on her and I would just walk her around the ring.
You mentioned in your early days you met up with Emilia Rodriguez. Do you remember anybody else at that time who were at the stables with you?
Yes, yes. We were a group of jockeys back there. Beside Bimbo, there was Sammy Heslop. He was doing like great at the time. C. Richards. They used to call him Yapayan.
Yes.
He was there at the back at stable. Barkley.
Chinabatli?
A. Barkley.
A. Bartley, okay.
A. Barkley. He was, you know, and then, you know, at times a lot of riders used to come around the back stable because Fritz had horses and he was winning races at the time.
So when did you actually get your apprentice license?
It was in 1969 of October.
October, and
October.
you got your license.
Then, no, just before that, a couple of months before that, I got my license. It took me a couple of months to get a ride, which was a Fritz Crawford trained Telegram.
Telegram was your first
ride.
official in an official race.
Ride. Yes,
Okay.
yes. And now we're at this stage of the game where I can really tell you that actually Telegram was owned by Sammy Heslop,
Okay.
the rider. Now he's dead and gone, and this is like 100 years ago, so they won't penalize us because jockeys weren't allowed to own horses back then.
Okay. You started to ride. You were riding competitively. Your first winner.
My first winner was a short circuit, and the very next race was Welsh Darling.
So you won.
Took a sparkling double.
Okay.
Third and the fourth race.
How far from when you got your license to when you actually rode your first winner?
Yes, that was like about 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And that is when my friend Sammy Heslop at the time, who was my tutor,
Okay.
because he used to live back there at Fritz Crawford stable too.
Okay. So you rode short circuit, but what was the feeling like in between getting your license and riding your first winner? Said, did I make a mistake? 2-3 months, no winners?
Oh yes, I got depressed at times, you know, and I figured, I should go back and chop saltfish. They used to tease me like that. Yeah, maybe that's what my calling was, chop saltfish. But in my heart, that's what I loved.
Okay. So your short circuit was your first winner. Who was the trainer? Do you remember?
Yes, it was Tony Mackenzie.
Tony Mackenzie was your
the trainer
of short circuit.
Of short circuit, and the Welsh Darling was trained by Errol Lim, the late Errol Lim. He's passed away years ago.
So let us analyze it. You have started to ride now, 2 months after your first winner. Things were not going all that well, and one could hear sounds from the stands. China boy can't ride, that kind of thing.
Oh, I don't want to hear that anymore. Stop.
What kept you going? Because you're under. People were saying, I can remember Linda De La Pena defending you one day on national television. I said, give the boy a chance.
Yes, I appreciated that. If anyone is family of Linda De La Pena, I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, what kept you going?
Just the love of the game, love of riding horses. It's to me it's exciting and exhilarating to be on a racehorse. You know, leaving that starting gate and you get that G-force and going 40 miles an hour. And
Okay.
always the danger, that like a danger that, you know.
That excited you?
Yeah, that keeps the edge, you know.
Okay. You're riding, a winner here and there, not going very fast, right?
Not here and there. Back then, when I started riding, it took me a long time to win a race.
Yeah.
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 But were you attached to any stable at that time? Or you just got the mounts as they became available?
No, yeah, I was attached to Errol Lim stable at the time. He was like a second father to me. And my uncle that owned Creation, he was doing his very best to get me started, which is a story I have to tell you. Let me put my glasses on to tell you this story. My uncle had the Thoroughbred winner, Creation. Now he's trying to help me to get me a good horse to ride, to win my first race. This was before I won my first race. And he begged Laura Silveira to put me on the horse. And Laura Silveira says to him, "This is not a ride for an apprentice. It takes a lot of ride, and it's for a grown, strong rider." And my uncle says to him, "If George costs you the race, I'll give you your percentage." Because Laura Silveira said to him, "This is where I make my living, you know, so I make my living on commission." So my uncle said to him, "Okay, I'll give you your commission if George throws out the race." Well, he agreed, Mr. Silveira. And this is where it started. Creation was the favorite, big Derby winner, and me, little bug boy, little apprentice, run last with the favorite, and that's when the cussing and the stoning started. But go back to go back to China and chop saltfish and all that, right?
Right.
So, being the gentleman, and my uncle says, "Okay, Mr. Silveira, here's a check." And you know what Laura Silveira did? He tore up the check and said to my uncle, "I know what you were trying to do. You're trying to help your nephew, but I'm going to put him on the right horse." So he didn't take the check, he didn't take the money. Being the gentleman he is, the genuine gentleman he is. 2 weeks down the road, he put me on a horse named Helen of Troy. He said, "Now this is the ride for George." And as the gate opened up, it was like wire to wire. And I never stopped from there. He kept putting me on horses. His dad, Owen Silveira, started putting me on horses. His brother, Michael Silveira. And I would just catch fire from there. And
Then one of the greatest association you had with a thoroughbred was with a horse by the name of 830.
yes, which was trained by his dad. And she was great because she used to carry the grandstand on her back. And that's how I rate horses. If they carry that 140 pounds and still win, that's how I know a horse is one of the best on the racetrack. So I grade horses like that.
Okay. How good do you think 830 was?
With the best. She was up there with the best, like Monty Stitch, and Bimbo has ridden some horses that carried the grandstand on their backs and win. So that is when they proved that they're the best on the racetrack.
There was a particular race, and I particularly remember that race. 830, 140 pound.
Here you go.
S. Brown, not George HoSang.
Yes.
And
He took the weight off, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you had Mr. George HoSang and a horse trained by Bobby Hill called Davisville.
Oh yes, that race. Oh my God, it was gut wrenching because 830 I've been riding her, and then the owner and the trainer, Mr. Owen, they were mad at me because I, jumped off of her after winning so many races. But this is what happened in racing. We can only ride one horse in a race, and then a lot of times, a lot of my good horses wind up in the same race, and then I have to pick and choose. And that's like you have 5 girlfriends. Now you have to choose which one you're gonna marry.
Okay. Okay. But you nipped 8:30 in the bud in that race on Davisville.
Well, yes, it hurt me to beat her, and up to this day, yes, you're right. I remember the race.
Yeah, remember the race. Okay.
Sometimes it hurts me to do that,
Okay, you had 3 Derby winners, right?
Yeah.
Kingpin, Titania, and Rika, right?
Yes.
And after Rika, you migrated,
Yes.
right? Tell us about Kingpin. 'Cause Kingpin was a bred in utero.
Yes, bred in utero, owned by connections from Arthur Sharp at the time, and for some reason they sold it to Pata Chung. So they thought something wasn't right with the horse, or whatever reason they sold it for, and I chose to ride Kingpin for Pata Chung. So I had the choice of riding him, and Moose Sharp at the time wanted me to ride Tachyon. So I said, no, this was the right horse I want to ride for the Derby, because he felt like a steer to me.
Okay.
Our Derby is 1.5 miles.
Right.
Unlike in the US, it's 1.25 miles. It's a European distance, 1.5 miles. So it's a long way, and a horse really has to have stamina to cover 1.5 miles. So I could feel it when I ride him that he has the stamina in him.
Okay, that's Kingpin.
That's good.
You move on now to Titania. Titania was a filly.
Filly.
Right.
Yeah.
What was that experience?
Okay. I had, a few weeks before, I had won the Oaks on her. Now, for some reason, it's like when I ride for Michael Silvera, there's a magic. I ride horses for him that not supposed to win sometimes, didn't have a chance going in, and they wind up winning. So there's just like that chemistry between us, Michael Silvera. And so I said, okay, she feels like she'll go long and might not really want 1.5 miles, but I'll just use the gas tank carefully and save her a bit for the stretch, which is what happened in the race. We got away with an easy pace, and everybody was saving their horses, and she prevailed at the end. It was great for me to win, the Oaks. But when she won the Derby, Michael Silvera migrated 2 weeks before and was trained by Larry HoSang,
Right.
Charlie HoSang's dad.
Yeah.
And it was not the same, but Daddy HoSang, as we call him, he's a great trainer too. And then I just spoke to Charlie, and Charlie was begging his dad to ride Titania in the Derby.
Okay.
All right, to kick me off. But anyway, I think that was the agreement, that Larry HoSang was going to train, but I got the ride in the Derby. So.
Okay. Probably your most memorable Derby victory came in 1976 with a horse called Rika, trained by Ren Gonzalez. That horse had built a notorious reputation for being a come from behind horse at any distance. Any distance.
Correct, Carl.
All of a sudden, in the Derby, the Chinaman had Rika in front. What was that all about?
Okay, at the break, which is so important at the break in a race, what a rider does, because you can look across and you see what other riders doing, and you know the horse that you're riding. I look across and I saw everybody saving their horses, because 1.5 miles, okay, everybody saves, but they were saving so much that I wound up on an easy lead. So I just took them for a joyride, and I was just galloping along easy, but Rika had the stamina. I didn't want to be saving him too much. So I just kind of dragged him on their face. I just let him gallop along. He was running with it himself, nice, fluent, easy pace. And by the time I reached the 3/8 pole, I knew it was over. Because now I got horse under me, and he's got the stamina. I mean, they were not too far away from me at the head of the stretch, but I knew I was going to be the last quarter mile, he's going to kick.
Yeah.
So, but passing the grandstand for the first time,
Yeah.
I knew some people probably had their guns out ready to shoot me, because this man is crazy. What the hell is Chinaman doing? He's in front.
Okay, you left Jamaica after, but before we go to your overseas adventures, let us go back a bit. Was there any jockey that influenced your development from the time you started to when you left Jamaica?
You know, when I was riding back there, we used to have the English riders come in the winter time.
Yes.
And everybody kind of had Lester Piggott and Joe Mercer. They were like gods of the racetrack
Right.
back then, right?
Right.
You know, the great Lester Piggott. So I used to copy those guys, you know, and there were like half a dozen of them. There were like George Duffield and Raymond Steele
Yes,
and
yes,
McKay
yes.
and all that.
LC Park.
LC Parks. So I would try to copy their style and learn from them. And our guys here, I mean, they were good, two great riders, Kenneth Mattis, Donald Andrade, those were the senior riders. And then there came the Panamanian riders, Joe Bravo, Jose Bravo,
Yeah.
Ubidia, those guys were great too. And so I was just like, you know, learning from those guys. Back then, no videos. So sometimes we were looking like monkeys on a horse, just jumping up and down, and we were flapping our arms because we couldn't see ourselves, what we looked like. But today, with videos and instant replay, riders are getting so much better because they see themselves and they can adjust themselves to look neat and polished on a horse.
Okay. Again, you left after Rica. Up till then, which horse do you think is the best horse you rode in Jamaica?
Okay, the best horse is a horse named Monty Stitch, but actually I didn't ride him in his best race that he ever ran. He won the Gold Cup,
Right.
Benson Hedges Gold Cup, with 140 pounds, and he is not a sprinter, and the race is 7/8 of a mile. And when he won that race, I rode him before. I think I rode Polka Dot in that race,
Okay.
which he was a champion sprinter, but in the end, Monty Stitch run by all of us in the stretch. So I think he was one of the best in those days that step foot that came on a spark. Remember, he was coming from Belmont Racetrack,
Yeah.
and he was a solid allowance horse.
Yeah. Okay.
He was owned by the ambassador, the
Yeah.
U.S. ambassador.
The relay.
That they're rolling,
Yeah,
yes.
right. You mentioned Monty Stitch and the
Yes.
Gold Cup. What do you remember about that race?
Okay, I remember me riding Polka Dotty, and when the gates opened, naturally, Polka Dotty was a natural sprinter. She was in front, and all I kept doing was looking behind how far in front I was, right? So to judge my pace, I wanted to just go as slow as I can, but the race was like filled with like 12 horses, and everybody wanted a piece of me. So the pace was a little too hot, but Polka Dotty was such, she was a front runner. By the time we got to the 3/8 pole, I kind of cleared the rest of the field, and I was coming into the stretch in front, feeling good. By the time I passed the 8th pole, I heard this crowd going, screaming. That means I know they're coming. They're coming at me. But a couple of horses passed me, and when I look across the track, it was this big bay horse, Monty Stitch. But I didn't think he would have made it with 140 pound going 7 furlongs. So, you know, but then I knew I rode the best horse, not in this race, but that is the best horse I ever rode. When he did that feat, 140 pounds going 70, that is not his distance.
Okay. Okay. You mentioned Monty Stitch as probably the best horse that you rode in Jamaica before migrating. There must be a horse around that was not the best horse that you rode, but is particularly affectionate towards you. Is there any such horse?
There is, Carl, a horse called Fairy Queen. She was trained by Nigel Nunes. She was a small, neat gray filly, but she was the closest horse I've ever ridden that knows how to talk. Her body language was so strong, and she was so sensible. When I got on her, I could ride her without any reins. She knows how to go through the parade in front of the grandstand. She warm herself up, and all I have to do is sit there and do nothing.
Okay.
I felt like I was robbing the people because I was doing no work at all. And she warm herself up. She'd walk into the starn gate and just stand there like a statue, quiet. And when the gates open, she'd break her own self and find her position in the race. And from the 3/8 pole, when I clucked to her and tapped her on the shoulder, she just gave me everything she got through the stretch. Sometimes I had to hit her, and when I hit her, I was crying. but now she won the Oaks, right? And she went into the Jamaica Derby too.
Okay.
Right? And up against the monster Tudor with Bimbo, and we had a big chest, Bimbo.
1975.
Yeah, he had a big horse.
Yeah.
And I wasn't one of the favorites in the race because, you know, filly, and she wasn't that like grand looking filly. But my thought was, if I can save the second, it's a great feat for her. So during that race, I just forgot about Bimbo, and I just was concentrated on the rest of the field, and I just got home for the second.
Okay.
Because she didn't really want to go 1.5 miles either.
Okay.
So I was so happy for her, although she was second.
4 championships, and in 1 year where you had 70 odd race days compared to 87, 88 now, you had 160 odd winners to hold that record for a hell of a long time until broken in the early 2000 by Trevor Simpson. Did you put a lot of emphasis on that? Did you say, okay, that is my achievement, I am happy and I am good?
Oh yes, definitely, Carl. I mean, as you were saying, you know, there are more race days, so I imagine that my percentage of wins is better than what broke my record. More race days, more races.
Yeah.
But I'm good with that, you know, because records are made to be broken, and it stood for a very long time. And if we were to go back to once a week racing, I think it might have been different. And in my days when I did it, there was no such thing as a race form. It's just a piece of paper with the 10 races and the weight they're carrying.
Okay.
And no videos to watch,
Yeah.
no anything. So today, the riders have agents,
Yeah.
and they can go over the entries, look back at race forms. So okay, this is the horse that's the best to ride in the race. So they have more knowledge of the horses entered.
True.
In part 2 of the lifetime narrative of George HoSang, he shares his time riding overseas and returning to Jamaica to ride.
Thank you for watching another video produced by the team from QuickGallopJaya.com and its YouTube channel, The Quick Galloper. Please stay on the channel for other enlightening videos on those involved in local horse racing. Please like, subscribe, and press the notification bell.